Hello everybody, we are learning to program in a language called F#, and we will have an introductory lesson. In this introductory lesson on F#, we will use a conditional statement to validate a condition and perform some simple calculations. To start, launch your programming environment. For me, I'm using Microsoft Visual Studio 2022. After starting Microsoft Visual Studio, on the Visual Studio 2022 dialog box, you can click Create a new project. In the Create a New Project dialog box, in the Languages combo box, select F#. In the list of project templates, select Console App. It should be selected already. Click Next. In the Configure Your New Project dialog box, change the project name to Payroll Evaluation 1. Set the location to a directory of your choice. Click Next. In the Additional Information dialog box, in the Framework combo box, select the highest version. For me, it is .NET 9.0 Standard Term Support. And click Create. In the code editor, I will replace the one line that was added with the code we will use. In our code, we start by displaying a few introductory strings. Then we request some values from the user. We start with the first name, followed by the last name, followed by the hourly salary. We will also need the time worked for the week. So we request the time worked for Monday. We request the time worked for Tuesday. We request the time worked for Wednesday. We request the time worked for Thursday. And we request the time worked for Friday. Then we add those values. Monday plus Tuesday plus Wednesday plus Thursday plus Friday. We store the result in the time worked. Then we declare some variables we will need. To start, we assume that the employee worked regular time. So the regular time is the same as the time worked. The overtime is set to 0. The regular pay is gotten by multiplying the hourly salary to the time worked. And the overtime is set to 0. Then we consider if the employee worked over 40 hours for the week, which would be considered overtime. In this case, the real time is set to 40 hours for the week. To get the overtime, we subtract 40 from the time worked. This time, the regular pay is gotten by multiplying the hourly salary by 40. To calculate the overtime pay, we first multiply the hourly salary by 1.5, which means the employee is getting paid time and a half. We multiply that result by the overtime, and then we store the result in the overtime pay. To get the net pay, we add the regular pay to the overtime pay, and that will give us the net pay. We store the result in a variable named net pay. After doing the calculations, we display the values to the user, which is done with the last section of the code. After writing the code, we can test it. If you are using Microsoft Visual Studio, on the main menu, you can click Debug, Start without debugging. A DOS window will come up and request some values. We type a value for the first name and we press enter. I type a value for the last name. I press enter. I type a value for the hourly salary and I press enter. For the time worked, on Monday I type 7 and I press enter. For Tuesday I type 8 and I press enter. For Wednesday I type 6.5. I press enter. For Thursday I type 8.5. I press enter. And then for Friday I type 7.5 and I press enter. And the application shows the results. To close the DOS window, I can press any key. In the previous section, we used a greater than operator to check a condition. That operator has an opposite, which is the less than or equal operator. We will apply that operator for the next example. What we do is to reverse the calculations in the calculation section. So we replace the regular time of the beginning by the value 40. And to start for the overtime, we put the time worked and subtract 40 from it. This time, the regular pay is the hourly salary times 40. The overtime pay becomes the hourly salary times 1.5 times overtime. In the conditional statement, we state that if the time worked is less than or equal to 40, In this case, the regular time becomes the time worked. The overtime becomes 0. The regular pay becomes hourly salary times time worked. And the overtime pay becomes 0.0. The section that displays the result remains the same. To test the application, if you are using Microsoft Visual Studio, on the main menu, you click Debug, Start without debugging. A DOS window comes up and it requests some values. I type the first name, I press enter. I type the last name, I press enter. Type the hourly salary, and I press enter. For the time worked, for Monday I type 9.5, I press enter. For Tuesday I type 8, I press enter. For Wednesday I type 10.5, I press enter. For Thursday I type 9, I press enter. And for Friday I type 10.5 and I press enter. And the application shows the results. Once again, to close the DOS window, I press any key and it goes away. So that was our introductory code for an F# console application. A link for the code is provided in the description section.